Can you overcome anything? Hello, and welcome to today's insight. Okay, so today's insight is going to be about your perception. And it is very important for anyone who has gone through any type of trauma to know that their perception of anything has a very big impact on how they receive it and how they deal with it. All right? What do I mean by that? Now, I don't know if you heard the siren, but that's kind of confirmation. So the way I see it is whatever happened to you, whatever you went through, okay, your perception of it is going to taint it for you. So if you want to go through something easily and be able to come out of it looking like $1,000,000, all right, you have to perceive that you can. Now, some people do this off the get-go. Other people, it takes time, okay? And that's partly the reason why it took me 7.5 years to get back from my accident, in my opinion. But ultimately, the way I see my progression, my recovery, was that it was like slow but steady progression towards my recovery. Okay, it might look like you're taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 4 steps back. It doesn't really matter how it looks as long as you're moving forward, right? Yes, sometimes you're going to move backwards, but that's a normal process, especially if you think of life in the sense of a graph. So you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. There's also another way of looking at life, the scale of consciousness, if I'm not mistaken, where like every single lesson you learn is a turn, but the lesson you learn leads you higher. So one lesson takes you, so if you start here, one lesson will take you up here, the next lesson will take you up here, the next lesson will take you up here, and so on and so forth. So you might think that you are not really like moving, you're actually relearning the same lesson again and again, but it's different aspects of the same lesson. And if you notice, the circle that I did would go farther and farther and farther out. So that means that's a level of finesse that is added onto the lesson. And so you might think that you're basically doing the same thing over and over again, but in actuality, you're learning another layer to it. It's like an onion, right? Like Shrek that explained you peeling up the layers of an onion. It's the same thing. And you get closer and closer to the core of the onion. Alright? And so that is what you want. You want to get to the center. You want to be you want to get to the center of the onion so that you can be centered. Wow. Okay? So don't take life as you return, like doing the same thing over and over again. You're not. You're learning new things. You're adding new tools to your toolbox. And these types of things are adding on to what you already know, your abilities and your finesse. And so these things are helping you to improve as an individual. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. If not, ask questions and it'll be my pleasure to answer. So, is there something that you have been hitting your head against the wall with and that you're actually not seeing the fact that you're actually moving forward and moving out, which means you're seeing more perspectives of the same issue. So you're not really just where you're at. You're not doing the same thing. You're going around and learning more things about it. So where can you expand your sight? So how does that relate to trauma? Okay. Now, with trauma, right, you go through a specific life-changing event. And your perspective is going to shift completely because you are no longer the same person. And so your way of responding to new situations is going to change. which means what you were used to in the past no longer applies. So it's like you have to relearn everything all over again. Okay, and not just in therapy, okay, which I did. I had to relearn how to sit, how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, how to drink, how to swallow water without choking, how to talk and all those things. And different languages took time, right? Because I know three, but I mean, it's just things that you need to remember or just recap, and it's not like you forgot the information. It's just hidden away in your mind somewhere. This is more for people who've been through head traumas, but in anything, whatever you used to do, you can still do. It's still in your memory bank, and the more you did it, it could even be in your muscle memory, but it is somewhere in your mind. You need to access it, and that takes time. So now the reason why the connection with trauma is that just because, okay, you are thinking that you learned this prior when you were a child, or you learned this when you were younger, you being different, you have to relearn it again. And because you are different, the lesson is different, and the way you learn the lesson is going to be different. So you have to have a little patience with yourself, a little understanding with yourself, and all that jazz. So imagine you're going to school for the second time, okay? You're going through the school of life twice in one lifetime. It is not easy, and it is not fun, okay? Especially, think of it this way. If you have done all the things that you now have difficulty with. So I'm going to take my example. So like I mentioned, okay, walking, talking, drinking, eating, thinking, sitting up straight, being polite, thinking different languages. If you did that all in a span of, I don't know, what was your age before your accident? I was 19, okay? If I had done all the things that I had learned in 19 years prior to that, you can't expect yourself to learn all of it all over again in a matter of weeks, let alone months. Okay, it takes years, and that's why it took me that long. And you need to have grace with yourself, because this stuff is not easy, especially when you're around people your age who, I'm gonna be honest, okay? When the first 2 months roll by, after that, people are you see it in their eyes. They're like, how is it that you're still not where you used to be? At least that's how I would take it, right? But this thing, especially neurons, oh my god, neurons take the longest to heal. That's why I said it took 7 years. It took 7 years for my neurons to get back from my accident. Okay? Because there's a lot going in there, so it's not just you're not reanimating neurons. You're just creating new circuitry in your brain. So neurons are creating new branches and are connecting to other neurons. And growing neurons takes time. And that's why I said it takes long. You need to be ready and committed to you're getting better. Because if you're not, you're going to not get better. Okay? So, as I said, you need to be patient with yourself. And this is in any trauma, right? So even for individuals who are amputated, it's not like from time to time they will, from what I heard, they can feel the rest of the limb that has been amputated. And that's not easy, right? So even in that, people will look at you funny. So imagine, but I'm not saying that this is, I'm not pinpointing you, but for those who are amputees, all due respect, at least your trauma is visible. People see that you don't have, that you're amputated, and so they can understand. Now, people who've had traumatic brain injuries, such as myself, and I'm not excusing myself, but it's a silent, like, people don't see it, and because I have worked so hard to look like nothing ever happened, when something goes wrong, people are like, what's wrong? Like, this is not normal, you're weird, so they'll put more blame, I guess. They'll be more like, oh my god, you're so odd, you're weird, like, those types of things. So sometimes there are perks to handicaps. I know this is not the best, but some handicaps have it easier, not in social aspects. Some handicaps are more understood because they're visible to the naked eye. You can see it, you can pinpoint it. Others, not so much. And so in those cases, you need to be, like in my case, you need to be clear. You need to explain yourself clearly. One of the things that I put importance on was how I communicate my needs. All right. So I've told people that I have been hit by a car and that I have brain trauma, and like it doesn't show, but sometimes it does rear its ugly head. And those times are the times when you need to be aware of the fact that I might do something weird. I might look completely normal, but then those times occur, right? So, I mean, there's a good side and a negative side to every handicap. Look for the good in your handicap, is all I'm saying, okay? In my Instagram video, I mentioned invisible traumas mainly, okay? And the reason why is that, as I explained earlier, if they can't see it, if they can't clearly identify why you're doing this, people won't try to understand. So let it be a neurological trauma or a neurological issue. We're talking TBI, traumatic brain injury. We're talking post-traumatic stress disorder. We're talking ADHD, or ADD, stuff like that. Some, like, you'll see it in their behavior, but some you won't, because they'll seem completely normal. But for those individuals, if they can clearly identify and explain what is going on, I'm pretty sure it's going to help them a lot. So is there something that you are currently grappling with that you haven't yet clearly defined in order to help other people around you help you best? Ponder that.